Alrighty guys, and welcome to another Dinger's Diesel Drives by me, Carter. This week in the iRacing Grand Touring Cup Series, we are visiting the Brands Hatch circuit, and we are doing the Indy configuration, which is one of the shortest circuits uh, that we would run on iRacing. It is only 1.2 miles, and it's only 6 turns, so there's not too much to cover here, but it's enough because it's a fun little hilly track that uh, doing these right can really help you in the long run here. So after my numerous laps of in testing, I'm not really too experienced with this track, but I was able to pull together a 52.246, so 52 seconds, quick laps here for 25 minutes. So yeah, so that's the lap I'll be showing you guys. So here we go. So down the front straight here, kind of going down the hill and then back up the hill as we're in 6th gear. This corner is very tricky as you're basically turning on the downslope of a hill, so the car will feel really light through most of this corner, especially towards the end when you're actually going down the hill. So the key to this corner is you want to have the best line without scrubbing off the most speed. So coming into this corner, I try to shoot for either the middle of the track or the outside of the track. So you kind of want to start ideally on the outside and then turn in, just so you can get the best line here. But what I try to look for is I try to look for this 50 marker, and then I also try to look for this white line here that kind of connects the pit road exit line. But I try to brake when I'm about 1 to 2 car lengths in front of it, so right about there. So that's when I'll be on the brake. From 6th gear I go all the way down, down to 5th gear only. And I'm kind of heading straight for this like green patch here. This green patch, a little pavement on the left, down to 5th gear. And then once I'm down to 5th gear, that's kind of when I start to do my turn in. And then, so I'm just off the throttle here. Give it a little bit of throttle because I felt like I was going to be on the inside. But the key to this corner is you want to stay off of this curb. It is very elevated. It'll really throw your car off. And this sand on the left here is very scary. So I get really close to it. That's probably the closest I got to it in almost all my laps, if not on it for most of them. But you see, I'm still off the gas here. And I'm still off the gas because my car just feels super light going down this hill. Finally, when I'm basically through the corner and when I'm through the curb on the right, that's when I'll get on the throttle here. Just knowing that I will get my traction back when I come over to the curb. And then you can hit the curb, and right about when you hit the curb or when you're about, that's not what I want, there we go. When you're about at this patch, that's when you'll feel the car come back to normal. So we'll go through again. You can just see how light the car is through the entire corner. I mean, I've got my wheel all the way to the right and I'm just sliding out. And finally I hit the curb and that's when I get my traction back. So that's turn 1 there. Now up to turn 2, sometimes for some reason, if I get really good speed through there, I'll flip up to 6th gear. Most of the time I just stay in 5th gear, up to you, it's your preference. You get pretty close to that point of shifting up. But for this one I try to look for this 50 marker again. This time instead of braking in front of it, we're braking behind it. So I'm braking just as I'm past the 50 marker here. From 5th down to 3rd, so 4th, a little turn in 3rd, that's when I really turn in here. It also kind of is when you start to see this curb on the left, when you start to become in line with the curb, that's when you're going to want to turn in. And then basically I'm just coasting into the corner. A little bit of brake because I was coming out a little far. But the acceleration with this corner is you want to feel when you're about halfway through the corner. So right about here is when you're halfway. You want to attack this curb as much as possible just because it's pretty flat. There's a little bit of elevation, but it's not as violent as turn 1's is, I guess. But anyways, halfway through the corner, I'm on the gas here. And then you're able to run off even past the striped curb a little bit. That's totally fine. But speaking of runoff, coming into turn 3 here, What I try to do is I try to follow this like dark strip of on the track here, and then I also look for where this kind of faded runoff is. That's kind of what I use as my braking zone. So kind of as I feel like I'm coming up to it, should be right there, just a little bit later. That's when I'll brake. I'll go from 5th gear down to 4th gear here, and I'm just like like you see I'm turning the wheel constantly through the entire corner, with a little bit more as I get into the corner and as I slow down. Attack that curb a little bit. I'm on the throttle as I'm getting to the curb or as I'm on the curb, just because you're able. I mean, you can see I'm entirely off the track, but all this runoff is for you to play with. And I think if we go right here and we go to chase, I mean, you can see that like my entire car is almost off the track, which is fine. I think this is probably the most you can probably push the car when you're going off track in this corner. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, the 50% of my car is already like in the grass, but for some reason this is not an off track. So you're totally fine going pretty far off this corner. Just obviously be careful. You don't want to really get too easy turning back in, as this off track's pretty strict as you're coming off the curb here. But yeah, so coming off that corner into left-hand 4. We're not lifting off the throttle here. Okay, maybe a little bit. I think I kind of came in a little, or I was coming through it a little wide. Just a little bit of lift maybe for turn 4, then turn 5 here. And setting up for turn 6, what I try to use for my braking zone is the end of this striped curb on the right here. So see right there, that's when I start braking. I'll go down from either 5th or 6th depending on how fast I come up to this section again. It's another one that's kind of like turn 2. You have enough speed to get up to 6th, but you can just keep it in 5th with high revs. That's totally fine. Either works. But ideally you want to go from wherever gear to 4th. And to go into turn 6 here, you want to kind of start in the middle of the track. And then once you get in the middle, that's when you're going to want to start your turn in. And it's going to be kind of weird, but I was not able to like actually turn into the corner. I just, wherever I was, I somehow managed to just keep my line through the entire thing. Probably because I was just trying to carry too much speed. But ideally, towards the middle of this corner, you want to be either on the inside, or, I mean, this is probably as far out as you want to be, because if you try to get on the throttle here and you're in the actual middle of the track, you're going to go off track here. So I'd say probably 25% right of the track. But once you hit like this big, I guess, I don't know, bulge, I guess, in the curb, or when the biggest stretch of the curb is here, where it sticks out, that's when you're going to want to get on the throttle. And I mean, even with me out this far, I was still able to get on the throttle and keep it out of the grass and out of an off track. So I'd say that that's probably a safe spot to get on the throttle here. It's kind of where it sticks out the most. And then get on the throttle and ride towards the outside of the corner and back down the front straight here. Longish front straight and across the line. So yes, I'm gonna take you guys back. Another thing I kind of thought was really cool, just look at the difference in the lighting one lap had. It was like I could barely tell, and as I was going through the laps I was like, wow, it really got dark towards the end of my lap. But anyways, alright, now I'm gonna show you guys a full lap with no interruptions here. My 52.246. Up the hill again. Use way too much curb. front straight and across the line. So yes, that was my lap, a 52.246 around the Brands Hatch Indy configuration. Fun little circuit. I like it. I don't think I've actually raced around Brands Hatch ever on iRacing, which is kind of crazy. There's a handful of tracks that I bought and just never raced on. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys on track.